Welcome and hello. This is a tutorial video in MODSIM, and in this lesson, we're going to be talking about importing background images and also importing time series data. So what you see on the screen here is my model. It's a model schematic in the main map sketched out with a couple non-storage nodes, a couple demands, and then finally a sink. We're going to be looking at the file import features. So if you go up to your file menu and then come down to import, here are the two topics in this video lesson: background images and time series data. Let's go ahead and start with time series data. And as an introduction, I just wanted to say that many of the nodes involve time series data. What you're seeing is inflow nodes here, non-storage nodes, demand nodes, and then there's also other types of time series data that we can load up. But I'm just going to use these two different time series data types as examples in this lesson. If I click on the inflow, I'll do a right click and then properties. And now what we're seeing here is a properties box for that node, the non-storage node inflow 1. And then down below here is a table of the inflow data. Now by default, it's just going to start off at 0. And the first time step right here is going to be the first time step in your simulation options. So we can go ahead and I'll show you how to change that a little bit later. But what we want to do is just type in inflow. So even though this lesson is about importing time series data, there's nothing stopping you from actually typing in time series data yourself. So what I've done is just said 5, 6, and 7 CFS, or sorry, acre feet per month. I can change this to any units I want. So there's CFS, or we could do, say, million gallons per hour. So let's just switch it back to what it was, acre feet and month for the units. So this is the data view right here. Here's a data tab. And then if I click on plot, boom, there it is, 5, 6, and then 7. Here's the bar plot. This particular simulation is only 12 months long. So let me go back to data, and then let me just click apply and OK. I can change the duration of the simulation if I go up to MODSIM, network settings. Then if I click on time step right here, we say that the start and end data date and simulation date is just for the year 1980. So if I wanted it maybe 1980 and 1981, I'll switch 1981 to 1982, and then down here also to 1982. Okay, so now we have 24 different data points for the 24 months in those 2 years. So if I click apply and OK, and then I come back to this data right here, right click properties, and now this plot should extend for, yes, 2 years, not just one. So let's go ahead and actually import the data now. Instead of 5, 6, and 7, we're going to import using Microsoft Excel data, which I have on the screen here. So we have monthly data, and it doesn't have to be monthly data. We could do it every day or every week, but this is the format I'm going to use. And then here are the different time series data sets associated with the 2 inflow nodes and the 2 demand nodes. And then down here, it's in a worksheet called data. I also have a sheet 1 and a sheet 2 worksheet. Those are just blank, so it's the data worksheet that we're interested in. Okay, I point that out because we're going to need to specify that when we go up to File and then Import Time Series. Now what I want to do is select the Excel file. If you don't see any Excel files here, you may need to navigate, or sometimes you'll see this filter in the bottom right. You need to make sure it's set to Excel file. So here's my file right here, data.xlsx. So once I select that, it gives me this dialog box. What I want to do is select the node inflow 1 right here. I have the list of different nodes for both demands and non-storage nodes. I can actually select multiple nodes here as long as they're the same type. So I could set the inflow for both inflow 1 and inflow 2 at the same time. But let's just go ahead and do inflow 1. Then up here, the node time series, I need to set the type of node that I selected here. So it feels a little bit backwards, but I'm going to select inflow 1 here. Oops. I guess you can just click it again to deselect. And then for this drop down, I'm going to say non-storage because that's the type of node. And then down here, the units popped into place. So I'm going to use acre feet per month. That's fine. But if you wanted to change it, you definitely have the option to specify different units. And then down here towards the bottom, we have the worksheet name. So here are the 3 different worksheets I pointed out earlier: data, sheet 1, and sheet 2. If I select sheet 1 and sheet 2, it's not going to have any data for me to populate further down. But if I select data, the main worksheet with the actual data on it, Now I can specify the different column data. This next field here for node/link names, I'm just going to say entire worksheet. I think use column headers could also work, but I've always used entire worksheet. That's always worked fine for me. By the way, in this lesson, I'm just going to describe what's worked for me. That doesn't mean there aren't other options that may also work for you, different options. But the documentation for this lesson is right here. It's on page 28, importing time series data. It's very sparse and a little frustrating when I'm trying to understand it and, of course, teach it in a video format. But it just says you can import via Excel, Microsoft Access, and an ASCII file, like a comma separated file. But it doesn't really give any details. This is it. That's it. And then it's on to background images for the next part of the user's manual. Okay, so let me just show you how this works. Use entire worksheet. Now the start date column, here's the Excel file again. Here are the different column headings. The start date, I'm going to select date time. And then for the actual data, it's going to be inflow 1. So let's go back here. Start date column. I'll select this one right here. Use date time column. As you notice, all of these options start with the word use, which is pretty redundant and probably not necessary. All we really need here is the name of the column, I think. Even the word column at the end is a little bit unnecessary. But anyway, here's the one I'm going to select, use date time column. And then for the data, now I'm going to use inflow column. So we have our same options as before, and then click on OK. All right, so that should have populated. Let's go ahead and do a manual check. I'm going to right click on that inflow 1 non-storage node, click on properties, and boom, there we go. Our flow rates increased from 1 acre foot per month for the 2 years up to 43. So if I wanted to look at a plot of that data, here it is. This is the line plot. If I wanted to click on the bar option, it should just be a stair step. Yep. So we have successfully imported that inflow data into inflow 1. I'll click apply and OK. Now inflow 2, let's go ahead and pick on that for a moment. Properties, now we have 0 data here in inflow 2. I'm going to go ahead and just repeat the process, file, import, time series, data.xlsx, or whatever the name of your Excel file is. Okay, this dialog box finally popped up. I'm going to select inflow 2 this time, and then non-storage. And then let's see here. Down here are the links. We're not going to deal with that right now. Let me show you the data. So for inflow 1, that just increased from 20 at 1 acre foot per month every month. Inflow 2 is a little bit different. It's more realistic time series where it starts at 22, it goes up to about 40, and then back down to about 18. And that repeats for the 2 years, just so you know what we're expecting once we import the data and we confirm what it looks like in the plot. All right, so acre foot per month, we'll just go with that for units. Data is the worksheet in our Excel workbook. Entire worksheet, use date time column, and now I'm going to say use inflow 2 column, and OK. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then let me go ahead and right click properties, confirm, yep, our data is there. And if I click on the plot, here is the plot for the inflow at that second node. And here it is in a bar plot. Okay, let's go ahead and add the demand data. For demand 1 and demand 2, I'm going to go ahead and just use the demand 1 data in this column 4 here for both my demand nodes to demonstrate how that works. So we'll go up to File, Import, Time Series, click on our Excel file, Open. Okay, that opened up. And then I'm going to select demand 1 and demand 2. This time from the node time series type, now we need to select demand, which is right here. Acre foot per month is fine. And then as before, select data and then entire worksheet. Start date column is going to be use date time columns. And then data column will be our demand 1 and OK. So that finished up. Let's check to see if we have data here. So right click and properties. Boom, we have demand data there. And then same thing with the other demand node properties. Cool, we have the data there as well. With the network all connected, I can now go up to run MODSIM. Okay, yes, run. And I've got some exporting happening. This is a little bit beyond the scope of this lesson, but I just wanted to do a quick check on the plot of the data. Okay, very cool. So just confirming that the time series data sets that we inputted for the inflows and the demands seem to work there. All right, so in addition to importing data with Excel, you can also import data using Microsoft Access database or a text file, a CSV file. If you're going to do that, go ahead and specify what type of file. If it's a text file, you may need to change this to .csv or .txt and then select your file, like data.csv is the one I have prepared. And then in the case of Microsoft Access Database, select that and then click on your file. Now, I went ahead and attempted to do this for both a CSV file and an Access Database file and did not have luck. Ran into some random errors, data link properties, connection error for Access, and then a different error for the ASCII file, unfortunately. Still learning this program myself, so if anyone knows how to import that data, I'm specifically interested in the text file. I don't care too much about the Access database. Then let me know, and then I can update this video or create a follow-up video. But as for me, I'm probably just going to be using Excel. That's what I'm most familiar with. All right, the second part of this lesson is loading background images. Perhaps I should have loaded an image before creating my nodes and everything, but that's all right because we can update that. To load an image, you're going to want to go up to File, Import, and then Background Images. Next, you want to navigate to where in your computer or your network the image is saved. So I have them saved right here. This is the background image. And then as you see, this is just a Google image. I'm a little bit zoomed in so I can zoom out. In the bottom left, you see we have a background pictures box with a check mark next to that particular image. So that allows me to toggle the image on and image off. Now for me, this image came in a little bit too dark. So what I did externally is lighten up this image to a 50% transparency. So let me just go ahead and add another image. That's this one right here. And boom, this looks a lot better because it's in the background, so I can focus on my demand nodes, my inflow nodes, and the labels a little bit easier. I can also turn that one off and turn the first one back on if I want. Now, one advantage of having the images in the background is you can move your nodes so that they are at specific locations on your map that may be aligned with the actual inflow or the demand. And then you can also like zoom out or zoom back in using the view, zoom in, zoom out tools. Or the way that I did it was just to hold down the control button on your keyboard and then do a mouse wheel up to zoom in, mouse wheel down to zoom out. And then also in the bottom right corner here, there's different zoom magnifications that are sort of preset. So there's 125, 150, for instance. Okay, that's a little bit too close for me. And of course, the mini map over here in the network settings is another way to zoom. So I think best practice would be to load your maps in first and then sketch in your network. But it's no problem, especially for the small network like this, to just move the nodes to where you want them if you happen to load the background image map after the fact. All right, well, that's all I had prepared for this lesson. What we did was talk about the file, import, background images, as well as time series data.